Hello there, and thanks for joining me. I'm digital artist Aaron Rutten, and in this video I'll share some tips that you can use to improve your illustration skills. First of all, you have to practice, but there are different kinds of practice. There's passive practice and active practice. Passive practice means that you're going to get practice doing what you would normally do anyways, just drawing and doodling and not really trying to practice. Whereas active practice is where you're intentionally going through routines and drawing particular kinds of techniques, drawing a bunch of different circles, a bunch of different squares, a bunch of different lines, and really aggressively trying to almost exercise and build up your skills. So you can think of it like when you're going for a walk, maybe you're walking to your friend's house, or you're walking to the bus stop, or you're walking to the store, you're getting passive exercise. You're not intentionally doing it to get a workout. Versus if you go to the gym and you're on the treadmill, that's like active exercise. And so there's really a difference between the two. It's good to do both. You want to take some time to practice by drawing things casually and doing things that you want to do, but you also do want to go through some routines and maybe practice. For beginners, a good practice is tracing over objects and different images and things like that. And I know people will say that tracing is bad, but in my opinion, tracing is good because it forces you to focus in on details. And when you can focus in on details, it makes you a better artist overall because then you understand the details of the object that you're drawing. It also helps build your hand-eye coordination and strengthens things like that. Next, you have to draw consistently. You have to draw often. You can't expect to get better if you're only going to draw once a year or once a month. You need to be drawing, not necessarily on a daily basis, but draw as often as you can. When you have free time, use that free time to draw rather than playing video games or watching movies or hanging out on Facebook. Again, you can think of it like exercise. You're never going to get enough exercise if you only exercise once a month. That's something that you need to do multiple times a week in order for it to make a difference. The next tip is to emulate art that you enjoy to get new experiences. For example, if you like Impressionism and you've never done it before, try to do an Impressionist painting. If you've never painted a portrait before, try to paint a portrait. You don't have to go into it expecting that you're going to be the best portrait painter in the world. Just do it and just try it, and you might find that maybe there's some things that you're good at, or maybe there's certain elements from those genres or those particular subjects or those styles that you can draw from and use to improve your illustration skills for other types of art that you make. The next tip is to get a sketchbook. That could be a physical sketchbook, actual paper and pencils and pens, or you could have a digital sketchbook. That could still be your desktop computer. It doesn't necessarily have to be a tablet, but if you have a tablet or a phone or something that you can sketch on, that's going to make it a lot easier for you to cram in some extra time drawing because you might be on your way to school or on your way to work, and if you can bust out your phone and draw on your phone a little bit, that's giving you a little bit more practice. Plus, it's letting you try something new and kind of challenging you a little bit to get outside of your comfort zone. One of the best tips that I can recommend, and something that I use personally to help improve my illustration skills, is to draw random words. Go online and use a random word generator and draw that word, because you're going to be drawing a lot of things that you've never thought to draw before. And by drawing different things that you've never drawn before, it really does give you a little more training and a little more experience and some insight that you can use for illustrating things that you like to draw on a regular basis. The next tip I have for you is to doodle. You don't have to draw completely finished masterpieces. Just draw little doodles and scribbles and all kinds of fun things. I like to bust out my sketchbooks with actual paper and pens and just do these little drawings that aren't really about anything. They don't represent realism. They're just a way to let my mind wander. And in doing that, I get lots of practice drawing curves and straight lines and meeting up endpoints on lines and different things like that. It is really, really good practice. And it's a lot more calming and peaceful than stressing out about having to draw something absolutely perfect. Which brings me to my next point. Don't focus on realism. You don't have to draw realistically to be considered a good artist. You can draw things that are not realistic. You can draw cartoons. You can do abstract art. You can do anything that you want as an artist as long as you're enjoying doing it. Another great tip is to draw spontaneously. Don't worry about being so precise about everything. Feel free to be loose when you're painting. You always see those cartoons of painters going and painting stuff really quickly. Well, that's because there's a lot of spontaneity in those strokes, and that translates into art that looks more carefree and more natural rather than something that you're trying really hard to draw each line very, very perfectly. Sometimes flaws make your art look better and more human. Another great way to improve your illustration skills is to be able to make observations. You have to see like a camera, look at something and really try to take a snapshot in your mind and memorize what color is that object, what texture does that object have, what's the form and the shape of that object. And if you can learn to memorize those things, it makes it a lot easier because then you can draw from imagination and you have some idea of how to shade and color things when you're freestyling and drawing without using a reference. Another tip that kind of goes hand in hand with observation is being able to look at an object and simplify it and break it down into its most fundamental properties. My body, for instance, is a whole bunch of three-dimensional primitive objects. My fingers are cylinders, my head is spherical, my neck is a cylinder. You could consider that my torso here is maybe kind of a cube shape. And so anything you can see, anything you can draw is all made out of 3D primitive shapes. And once you understand how to shade a sphere, you can shade a head. Once you understand how to shade a cylinder, you can shade arms and fingers. But really, once you understand those basics, you can draw pretty much anything you want. Another way to stay consistent with your drawing practice is to do themes. Have a theme for maybe a month or for a week. That could be abstract art for a week, or you could do just anime for a week, or you could do just animals for a week, and force yourself to try to do all kinds of different things within that theme. That'll give you a lot of practice, and it'll give you a reason to keep drawing and keep practicing. And the last tip I have for you is to start with easy subjects and then work your way towards the more difficult subjects. Don't go into a piece thinking, I'm going to draw this Civil War recreation scene with 100 people fighting each other and horses and cannons exploding and backgrounds and all that stuff, because it's going to take you a really long time to finish that piece and you're probably going to get discouraged somewhere down the road. So stick with something easy. Draw one person, or draw one animal, or draw one landscape with very few objects in it, and then work your way up towards something that's a little more complex when you're more confident. So there you go. Those are some tips that will help you improve your illustration skills. If you found this information helpful, take a quick second to like this video. And if you're new to my channel, I'd love to have you subscribe. I have a lot more digital art videos like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.